So, welcome to the 5th episode of the Spelunky PSP development series. You know the rest of the formula. The last 3 months of development were pretty unique compared to the rest of the development lifespan. In the first episode, I introduced the build system, I set up OpenGL, I introduced logging, I introduced resource compiler, texture packer. In the second episode, there was native Orange Pi support, native Raspberry Pi support. My friend Rafa introduced Windows support. There's obviously code-based changes. I think back then I introduced the state pattern. And in the third episode, there was again native Android support, new kind of device. It was collectibles that I introduced back then. And in the fourth episode, I introduced Entity Framework. Entity Framework is used for ECS, which I called a lot in that episode as a programming paradigm. My bad, it is a design pattern after all. And I'm saying all of this because there is none of that in the last 3 months. There was no new devices supported, there are no new technologies, because I dedicated myself wholly into the new features, which resulted in a ton of new things.
And amongst those new things, there is a fix for the random number generator on the PSP. Previously, the levels were generated randomly, but the problem was that the levels were generated always in the same order. But now, as the seed will be unique each time you run the game, the order will be different. Besides, there is a fix for the rendering layers, so things won't be blinking, especially when you pause the game, and the pause overlay will be displayed over the HUD. And now, the main menu. Notice the flare. The version is bumped into 0.5. There is this exit rope that I'll use later. And there is a link to the GitHub repository. That's because I am just aware that at some point the game will be re-uploaded by someone, and I want to point people to the place where they can download the most recent version. Now, notice the particle effects. They're really nice. Important thing added in this release is permanent inventory, so once I get into the level, I'll still carry this flare. And on the left side of the screen, there is this new big feature, being the shopkeeper and the shop. Let's pick up the cape. So there is this message which says how much a thing costs. Notice how the shopkeeper follows the customer. I don't have $15,000, so I can't buy it. The transaction will get rejected. And at this point I can, well, firstly, I can collect this amount of dollars, or I can steal from the shopkeeper. It is also possible. You can do it by, well, you can do it in two ways. You can simply take an item out of the shop zone, which will trigger the shopkeeper. He will get angry and try to get you with a shotgun. Or you can just try to kill the shopkeeper first and then take the item. That may be a little bit easier. Problem is, killing shopkeeper will make the game harder later, as you will see. On the left side, there is this golden idol on the altar. In the original game, there would be a boulder falling from the top of the altar, but not in this game. That's because I just didn't implement it yet. Once you move the golden idol to the exit tile, you should get $5,000. So it's quite a profitable thing to do so, especially when there is no boulder falling on top of you. And it got collected. Now, I want to open that crate on the right side, but there is spikes, so I'll just plant a bomb. Bomb destroys spikes and arrow traps and obviously tiles. Notice how stuff got moved away out of the explosion. That's also a new thing. And now I'll just try to get back into the shop. Once you throw a rope or a bomb, the rope or bomb counter will be decremented. That's also a new thing. Ropes and bombs aren't unlimited anymore. What may be irritating is that you can't put things back into the inventory, so once you get a bomb, you just can't put it back. And now I'll buy the escape. I got $15,000 removed. And now I could just try to kill that shopkeeper. Let's pick up this floor. And throw it from behind. Now he dropped a shotgun, so that will make things easier. And now I can just pick up those items. I got a compass, which points to the nearest exit tile. And I got gloves. Gloves allow you to climb over flat surfaces. Notice that once you kill a shopkeeper, there's still his body, which, by the way, you can use it as a projectile. You can throw it on snakes or bats, and it will work just as if it would be a rock or whatever else. I'll be demonstrating the gloves. I can climb over the flat surfaces, and let's get to the next level. You can already hear the shopkeeper down below. That's why I said that killing a shopkeeper will make your life harder. There's a golden idol, but I don't care because right now I can't even spend those dollars on anything because the shopkeeper is angry at me. Because killing shopkeeper makes him spawn at the exit tile of each next level with a shotgun, obviously. So there is this compass arrow pointing to the exit. I'll just use that. Okay, so he lost his shotgun. He probably, I think, judging by this caveman sitting around dead, I think he killed the caveman and the caveman worked as a projectile and just stunned him. By the way, notice that cavemen don't pop like balloons anymore. That's also a new thing. Just as in the case of the shopkeeper, you can use him or the damsel as a projectile, and I got killed. Notice the mug shot for the main dude being in the shopping zone. And by the way, I noticed that I already said about the damsel, so I'll have to show it. And there is a damsel on the left side, just here. Now let's grab the damsel, and that was unintentional. Let's pick up the damsel, and just as in case of the golden idol, move the damsel to the exit tile. Now that gives an additional hit point when done. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You get an additional hit point, and there is a smooching scene in the level transition room. So I can now try to buy something. And I got a compass. And the smooching scene. Notice that alright, it got decremented right now, but it was initially incremented by 1 after the damsel was rescued. And now I could try to steal from the shopkeeper just by moving an item out of the shop zone. And that wasn't really smart. The shopkeeper AI is pretty dumb, but it has a shotgun after all. In this new release, I had to reduce the number of particles by 50% because there's just so much stuff happening at the same time. If you just happen to kill too much thing at the same time, there would be so much particle that well, you'd notice the lag. Now, I can't really jump on those spikes, so I'll plant a bomb. I could try... By the way, again, explosion, moving stuff. That's really nice. As I already said, I could try to somehow optimize the game, especially judging by the lag that is introduced when there's too much particles. I already have some optimization method on my mind, but I already mentioned it like a million times. It is simply spatial partitioning plus frost and cooling. Now, I could use that caveman as a projectile. I'll grab a lot of stuff, place it in a single place and plant a bomb just to show you stuff flying out of the explosion. Yep. Let's try to destroy some tiles, because there is gold and rubble spawned once you destroy a tile. By the way, the music is not looped. That's also how it's done in the original game, but I think I could just loop the music. And let's get to the next level. The main dude is blinking once he gets some damage. And I got a mitt. Mitt makes you throw things further. Now let's get a damsel, because I just have only a single hit point. Smooching scene. Rope as a projectile. And let's try to steal again from the shopkeeper. Maybe I'll have much more luck this time. And it worked, but I'm afraid that the damsel is done. Shopkeeper must have killed her. And probably the same scenario as before. The shopkeeper probably shot the damsel, and the damsel was running, so it worked as a projectile and stunned the shopkeeper. And well, you can already hear the shopkeeper down below. The mag shot in the shop. And let's just have a look at the shopkeeper running. I could just try to wait for a good moment and shot him in the back. I got him. Well, he's stunned, but right now he's dead. and I could use his body as a projectile against this cave-in. And that was weird. So now let's quit the game using the rope. The game still can be quit using the pause screen, the pause overlay, but it's a nice thing to have. So I had this little distraction in terms of the Android slash 3D slash gyroscope thing, where I extended each tile of the map to be a cube and added the gyroscope, wired the gyroscope to the in-game camera, and it was nice to watch, but it's not going to the master branch. Well, because obviously PSP doesn't have an accelerometer. Secondly, it would put a strain on already choked PSP GPU. And thirdly, it's useless in terms of gameplay. And I was thinking really hard how to apply this effect, maybe not in Spelunky PSP, but in general. And I came up with two ideas. Maybe you could create an Android Live wallpaper with this, where you'd have pretty much the Spelunky PSP level generated and rendered on your lock screen and wired to your accelerometer. And it would be fun to watch. It would be a nice eye candy, but in terms of applying this effect in an actual game, maybe if you created a game like in the same style as Wolfenstein or Doom, the classic ones, and you could tilt the camera, tilt the phone to maybe peek around the corner to see what's there. Maybe that's how you could apply it, but I just couldn't figure out how to make use of it in any other way. Yeah, so that's that one thing that I tried to do. In terms of the plans for the future release, well, the next release would be 0.6, and it would ideally introduce the jungle level. Now, the jungle level problem of that is I would have to create, first of all, how you create new levels in Spelunky PSP. Well, each level is split into a 2D array of rooms. There are 3 by 3 rooms. Each room consists of a predefined 10 by 10 2D array of tiles. How do I create those 2D arrays of tiles, you may ask? Well, I have a header file, and in this header file I manually, hand by hand, tile by tile, I type a digit for each tile, and each digit corresponds to the value in the tile enumerator. And yes, this is cumbersome. This is really tidy, and finding bugs, I mean weirdly placed tiles in this kind of rooms, is really hard. So what I would ideally have in the 0.6 release is writing a tool which I could use. It would be a GUI tool, which I imagine I could just place a tile from some sort of side menu or whatever, and I could export that in some format like JSON. I already have a JSON serializer in my code base. That's because the Atlas C, the texture packer, outputs JSON files, and that would be fine. That would really ease the development. I obviously don't imagine doing it in any other way than having tools for that. I know why I didn't do that yet so far. So before I do the 0.6 release, I need to have this tool. I also imagine I could write some benchmarking framework for Spelunky PSP just to measure out of curiosity if some changes do introduce some increased work on the GPU or CPU or whatever. And
yeah, the tools, the benchmarking framework and the tools. That's what I need in the 0.6 release. And then I can actually develop the features. The features being firstly the jungle level, but also the NPCs in the jungle level. But that would be repetitive. Implementing frogs or what's in the jungle level, those totems with spikes, that's repetitive because I already have a framework for that. I already wrote a framework for this kind of stuff to introduce the caveman, the snakes, the bats, the spiders. So that's repetitive. I don't care about this because that will be easy. And when can you expect the 0.6 release? Honestly, I'm giving myself a break. That's because, well, I don't want to say I became disinterested, but I just don't want to label myself as strictly as someone who just sits around the computer and writes a game. I'm not strictly interested in making games. I have a pile of books that I want to read right now, but just can't find time to do so. For example, I recently read a book which is an introduction to planetary climate by Ralph Lauren, and this book has a section called Further Reading, which has a ton of weird books. Like there's this books about Soviet robot exploration in space, but there's also this book called Planetary Climate Principles, which explores the idea further with some Python examples, with some Python tasks to solve. And this got me interested in planetary climate modeling because that's on the border of computer science and physics, and I just wanted to toy with this idea, with this modeling of the climate. Making games is fun, but you just can't put each hour into this because you could burn out.